Hi guys. Okay, we've been chatting about this, and I thought we were like, this is the perfect topic to talk about, right? So it's all about, how would you say, like mom guilt? Is that what, it started with this concept of mom guilt, because I was in here and I was like, oh, Marisa, you look amazing. So Marisa has been pretty meticulous in staying on task with doing her Peloton and just working out for a good 20 to 30 minutes, at least 4 to 5 times a week, right? Mm-hmm. And it's made a remarkable change. I personally, like, I'm gonna, like, you look amazing.
Thank you.
And I was like, whoa.
Thank you.
What have you been doing?
I'm finally in some good pre-pregnancy pants today.
That's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
But I think, in addition to just physically looking amazing, and just the changes that makes on, trickle down. We were talking about this, and we'll talk about the trickle down after that. But the main thing is, after you have a baby, a lot of us, and you also, had a little bit of depression.
Oh, yeah. Like I told you, I was very open about it, dealing with, I'm going to call it depression light, because it wasn't like super
it wasn't like where there's depression heavy, where
this wasn't,
you can't be in the room alone with your baby.
I'm like, no, this is depression light,
a little,
and it's just bummed. And I think like
you were in the room.
Yeah, and Matt, I think, described it perfectly. It was like having just oatmeal with nothing in it. Like, that's how it was, like, all the time going through. I was just like in this
gray fog,
really just weird place in my head, really. And that's like,
which
for me was really like, you guys know, like, having gone through grieving, like that is like the darkest place. And to be in this place, I've never dealt with depression. I've dealt with anxiety, but I've never dealt with depression. It was really weird to me. It freaked me out, which is why I had like all my thyroid checked, everything. So I'm like, is this chemical? Like,
that's
in terms of what is being created.
How did you become aware that you were in that situation?
I just felt bummed all the time. Like,
like when you wake up?
From the time I woke up, it was just like dragging my feet. It was like, honestly, like the way I would say it was just like lifting a cinder block off of me every single day. That's what it was like waking up, where I was like, I can't believe I have to do this today. And I'm like, this is so sad. Like, this isn't normal. Like, I have this beautiful baby.
We got a new house.
A new house. Like, everything's good. Like, there's no reason to feel this way, which is why I had all my tests done, because I had thyroid issues when I was pregnant. So I'm like, did that even out? And then she's like, no, you're good. This is depression. And I'm like, okay, I got to do this myself then. And because personally, I did not want to go on medication.
And that's not for everyone.
It's not
Some
for
people,
everyone,
they have to.
Right? But personally, I'm like, let's try this first.
And that's a good way to do it. Like, if you have depression, obviously whatever your doctor, you have to work with your doctor, but it's like, that's a good way where it's like, okay, well, it's light, so maybe I can I try exercising or something else?
Feel good again, because that's what I did when my brother died. I'm like, I gotta figure out a way to do this, and so I exercised and took care of myself. And I'm like, let me try.
And you got into a better state.
Yeah, and I got into a better state. It helped. It was like it was like sunblock against.
That's a good way to look at it.
How having done that after you experienced that with your brother gave you a good perspective this time.
Yes, where I'm like, if I got through losing my brother, I can get through a little light depression after having a baby, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can do this.
I think it can really, like, it's so interesting, because it's like really dark things, you can really turn it into something great in a really weird way if you have that, that strength to just be like, you know what? Maybe I can try this, and it starts with not a huge task. I think that's, for me, the most important thing to just convey to people. It's like, that's why we always talk about doing a 15-minute, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Start with 5. Like, let's not even go 15. Like, this actual movement in your body, I think really does start to change things. So it was interesting when Marisa was like, whoa, like, okay. And she's like, yeah, I've been on the Peloton. Yeah. But then she was like, what's interesting, and that's what you were saying, she was like, well, I now I'm dry brushing and I'm moisturizing my hands.
Yeah, like taking the time, because I would be in such a rush. It's like after you have a baby, you're just like this milkmaid constantly, like, baby on you, changing diapers. You don't even look at yourself. And I looked at myself a few times. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't freaking plucked my eyebrows, like I look like a monster. And
oh my God, that's so funny. I was just gonna say that.
But
with
like, you know, like there are things you don't even think about, but and nobody else probably noticed. But to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, like.
But that kind of that's a trickle down where it's just like then you could go darker and darker into that, where it's like I don't want to get dressed anymore. I'll just put a ponytail on, like that kind of stuff. No makeup, like whatever it is. That trickles down, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, fine, I'm just in this rut, and I don't know how to get out of it. But I think what's interesting with Marisa was she was saying, and I feel like it's the same thing with me, whereas like started with 15 minutes, and then as you started getting more fit, you're like, oh, okay, I feel kind of good.
Yeah, it starts to push you further and further, and you're like, okay, I can add 10 minutes.
Let's add other things, like drinking water. Like then you start looking into other things. But that is what I'm talking about in terms of opening up, like by working on yourself, all these doors start to open up. And it's just due to this, like, this energy you put into your body.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, it's 100% is. And it's like, for me as well, like I had to shake that. It's like we've talked about the mom guilt. That I'm not a bad mom. She's okay to not have me with her
for 30 minutes.
For 30 minutes.
That's
and
right.
Even if she's asleep for 30 minutes, I don't need to be doing everything else. I can take that time.
Have some coffee maybe, or do something where it's like, for yourself.
Exactly. I can jump on the Peloton right now. Okay, this is the time I'm going to do it.
And I think it's so interesting because yesterday I had my wellness check with my gynecologist, and that was what she was talking about, where most women feel really guilty if they even like work out for an hour.
Yeah.
And you know, she deals with new moms all the time, and she's like, that's the most common thing that she sees. And I said, you know, I've come to terms with that. Like, you know, for us, our kids are older, but sometimes on a Saturday or Sunday, I want to sleep in, right? But then by the time I sleep in, then I don't work out till 11 then if I've slept in and did my coffee and did all the other stuff. And then I'm like, I used to feel so bad, like, okay, well, what are they going to eat for lunch while I'm on this treadmill, you know? But now I'm like, all right, guys, you guys make your own lunch. And then I think they're like, cool, whatever, I can do this, you know, and they're empowered. But then it's like, you didn't have to feel bad.
I know, but it's hard. And I'm like, you know what? It's just something I'm going to come to terms. I will probably always feel that way.
Yeah,
but
I think all moms do.
Have got to take care of myself to take care of her. I don't want her to see a mom that's just like frazzled
and feeling bad about themselves.
And feeling bad about themselves and snapping and everything, because then I get cranky. You know, I mean to Yon, who doesn't deserve it.
But I feel but that's what I'm talking about with the trickle down, you know, and you know, when people are like, well, what's the work? How do I start the work, you know? And you know what? That work could be anything, but I think it's just honestly taking time for yourself. And it's taking time to do something where it's for the good of yourself. And not for anybody else, for myself. But then that actually trickles down to other people because you feel better about yourself.
Well, and like for me too, you guys know I'm an introvert. I get burnt out by people all the time, and I have not had a moment alone since the pandemic, basically. And then now I have a baby. And I'm like, I'm going nuts. Like I have a dog on me, like a baby on me, a husband here. I'm just like, I need time by myself.
That's your time.
Nobody's bothering me. So even if it's 20 minutes, because I wasn't even giving myself, like I was going to sleep, waking up, going straight into it. And I'm like, I need to breathe. Like I love you guys all, but I need you to not be in my space. And this 20 minutes gives me.
That's my time.
My time.
But
nobody's
everybody thrives from that time you took for yourself. That's around you, and I think that's what people need to realize.
Mood,
yeah.
Right.
But then you might be in a clear state where then things will start getting cleaned up around the house. You know.
100%. And you're not just like in that fog. It was really for me. Having never dealt with depression, it was a really strange place.
It's interesting.
It was weird.
It's interesting, and then it's the trickle. It trickles down into everything. You know. And I think. The key is, though, it has to be simple. I think for a very complicated lifestyle, it can't be this complicated work that you have to do. And I think that's with everything. Like, you know, with your exercise, it has to be something that's simple and it's doable, right? And I think with getting dressed, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like, it needs to be things that are simple. It's not these, like, crazy outfits you see on the runway where you're like, I can't dress.
It's
You know, like that.
it's
right.
You've got to adjust your life to.
Right. But then you can do things like that, like things like this, where it's like, it has to be this easy, where it's like, okay, I could put all my stuff in here. I'm not going to ruin this bag because it's lined, and I'm out the door and I look like I'm dressed. And that's what we're talking about. It's like that. I personally think that's what we're trying to do around here, where it's like, it's beyond what we're selling, but it's this concept
I think that informs our product development.
Yes.
This philosophy that we're talking about, and simplifying it, making it easy.
Yes.
It's not hard. That's what we're trying to put in all the stuff we offer.
And the realization that you can live this way.
It has to pass it's that simple test.
It's that simple, but it's like what you're saying. It's like you don't have to go through your day looking all frazzled. But I think it's really hard to come to that. I have to admit, there's been a very long time where, you know, it was funny because my hairdresser, since I got these extensions put in, I was telling her, I was like, I don't think I've had my hair down for this long.
Yeah.
These last, since whenever, I think it was
it's
June.
fair it took us 14 years to get to this space?
Yes, I think it's been 14 years of me in a ponytail and half the time super gray hair because I just really didn't care, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's just like after I did all this stuff with my, like exercising, like it's the trickle down, like you start doing all these things.
Like Marisa got to it much faster than we did.
Yeah, Marissa's,
It took us 14
I was like,
years.
dude, she only did it in 4 months. Like we're like 14 years in, you know, but I was like, I could have had hair down, you know what I mean? And I think that was the thing. I told her, I was like, I don't remember ever having my hair down for this long.
Yeah.
But it's just these little tiny changes where you're like, you can.
You can.
You know? And it's actually quite simple.
And I think like for me too, like it was also being, I don't know if this helps people, being on some sort of program. Like, so like obviously we got the Peloton and I would just kind of like, all right, I'll do this one. And then I was like, I
need to have a structure to it.
Where I need a structure because I'm not really sure what I'm doing with this. So it's a good structure because then I don't feel guilty on the days I'm not doing it because I'm like, I have permission from them not to do, you know, like, because it's like the brain goes into such a weird place where it's like, it's all or it's nothing. And
That's
it's like,
right.
It doesn't need to be.
No.
Like,
And I think it's like when you do your habit jar, it's like the habit may be just like, did you do something good for yourself today?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's why we were talking about the high fives.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing because I feel like you can tell yourself today, like, hey, high five. I woke up this morning and I'm going to high five myself because we're going to have a good day. You got up. How's that?
Yeah.
And I think give yourself a high five for getting up, you know? And I think that's a huge deal. And I just feel like it's just doing the work just means taking the time to do something that's for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think, and it doesn't have to be this monumental task where you're going to like run a marathon, like whatever it is, like 5 minutes of time to just have your own quiet time. Or like you said, like for those 30 minutes when the baby's sleeping, and I never even realized this and I ran myself haggard. Like you said, I was probably cleaning up and doing all the other stuff because you felt like you had to.
Right? Yeah. I'm like, you know what? No. And then now I'm like, it's easier.
Is it going to kill you if it's the laundry can be done tomorrow?
Right?
Not
or
really.
Even later that day, I'm like, I can hold it.
Yeah, but ironically, doing all that stuff in every last moment will kill you.
Yes.
That's the irony of it.
And it goes back to like for Matt and I, like, because we've been training in these zones, zone 2 training, like, okay, let's just do the zone 2. Like, and zone 2 is, it's how you measure your, you know, heart rate. But I feel like it was funny because this man was saying that he had a bike and he would ride from X to Z, right? And he thought that for the longest time, he had to do this ride as fast as he could and sweat as much as he could. And he timed himself as 35 minutes. And then one day he's like, oh, screw it. I'm not going to go fast. I'm just going to go at a leisurely, good pace, but not kill myself. And then he looked at his watch and he's like, it was only 2 minutes slower.
Yeah, see it, right?
Right? And he's like, for those 2 minutes, this was way more pleasurable and I would do this every day versus that 30. Because when you're thinking about that really hard ride, you're like, forget it. I can't do that today.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking about like, oh, actually, I'm just going to get on the bike and do a leisurely ride.
But then the ironic promise of
It's crazy.
the leisurely ride, like you said.
Yes.
If he's put off by the fact that it's going to be a hard ride, he won't do it.
Yes.
If he does the leisurely ride,
Consistently.
ironically, he's going to do it so many more times. And as a result of having done it, he's going to get to that 35-minute pace.
Yeah.
That's what's weird about this.
At a leisurely pace in the long run. So that's what I'm saying is like, It's okay. Give yourself grace. The laundry's not done. Maybe it's not today.
Yeah, I mean,
it's okay.
That's the thing, and it's like at the end of the day, it's 20, 30 minutes that you give to yourself. Like, how much time do we spend on Instagram? How much time do we spend on Facebook, looking at ads online, looking at stores? Like, that time goes by so quickly.
So fast.
Put your phone down. Honestly, I think, like, and just
but it trickles down.
Do something.
Doing those 30 minutes and spending that 30 minutes to yourself then will open up your somewhere in your brain where then you're like, oh, I'm going to dry brush before I take a shower. Yeah. Now your skin looks better because now you've decided you're going to do that, you know? I'm going to moisturize my hands, but I'm going to use the good lotion.
I'm going to get the good lotion. I'm going to spin that on myself. I'm done. Like, it's this martyr syndrome, I think, that we have a lot of, and it's like, there's no...
And it's all, you put that on yourself. That's the best part. It's like nobody else is thinking that.
That's what I thought to myself, because Yon would go play soccer, and I wasn't like, oh, he's so selfish for playing. I'd be like, do it. It's good for you.
That's right.
I'm like, so why do I think that he thinks that about me?
He doesn't.
Right? Like,
and I think that's the thing.
It's in your head.
It's totally in your head. Or are my kids like missing me because I'm doing my run right now? No. They're happy as a clam because you're not bothering them for an hour.
Exactly. I'm like,
you know?
she's sleeping. Like, she's just...
It's fine. It's so interesting. It's fine. And I think it's just like finding the simplicity in that and just really giving yourself grace.
Yes.
And giving yourself, just start with even 5 minutes. Let's not even go to 15 because I was like, let's just get on the bike for 15. Get on the bike for 5 or go for a walk.
Yeah.
Or, you know, even if you're not going to start your walk, maybe like just go and do something where it's for yourself.
I think ultimately it's always, at least this is what I've dealt with anxiety, it's get out of your head. Like your brain can be your own worst enemy. Like at least mine can.
That's
like,
good. Get out of your head.
So bummed out where I'm just like, gosh, what is wrong with me? Like, what are you like?
But nobody else is thinking it. You're putting all that on yourself.
Get it out. Get out of there. Get it. This isn't a good place to be all the time. Like just.
That's right. And I think a lot of people experience mom guilt. I know I personally do all the time. And I think it's just something like, but once you've realized it, it's so liberating.
It really is. I mean,
it really is. It's like, and don't do the things you don't want to do. Like for me, it's like that people pleasing thing. I think I really have been working on that. Like, why? Why do you want to?
You've been getting progress.
You have to stand. It's almost like, I don't feel like doing that.
That's exactly right.
No, thank you.
It's just like, no,
Why? Yeah. Are they gonna miss me? Not. I mean, you know, they might miss. You know, but.
Don't want to, like,
but you don't want to be there.
Yeah.
So. Don't.
They're not gonna miss you because you're gonna be there in that state if you stay.
That's right.
Right.
And maybe don't do that.
State,
right. Yeah. And say no to it, and give yourself that half an hour.
Yeah.
Right.
And then maybe next time you will want to be there, and
you'll be happy to be there, and you'll feel really great about being there. And I think that's the difference.
And they'll have a better experience.
That's right. Just give yourself grace and time. And
I think it's like a short versus long-term view, right?
It is a short versus long-term view.
Because in the moment you're like, oh, I have to do this, otherwise this. But ironically, all the stuff we're saying is if you prioritize and give yourself that time, you're going to be more present.
Yep.
And actually satisfy the stuff you're worried about more and better in the future.
That's right.
So
hard though. That doesn't mean it's easy.
No, it's not. And it's also taking, I don't know, like it's very hard, like taking your emotions out of it to a certain extent of just being like, okay, this is not a rational thought. Let me think about this before I give an answer.
Yes. Yes, that's good. Yes.
Instead of being like, I got to do this right now, it's like, no, it's fine.
No.
Like,
let me think about it.
Let me think about it.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great, this is a good place to end it. It's just really taking time for yourself.
Yeah.
And start with just something as simple as giving yourself a high five. Because when you love yourself, that's when things happen.
There we go.
But that's work. It's work. And that's doing the work.
Yes.
Because we have a lot of questions like that. Where do I start? Start by doing something good for yourself that makes you happy.
That's right.
And then it'll all start happening. It's really weird.
It does.
It's the fairy dust. It trickles down.
It does.
And I think that's why we've had such a struggle to answer people's question when they ask that, because I think we've come to realize that that's a unique journey for every person.
Yes.
So
yes.
If they're like, oh, well, how do I get those arms? It's like, it's not honest for us to say, this is how you do it. Because your way of, so immediately, you know what I mean? It's like we can give you direction and advice on how you did it, but you got to leave space for that person to find her way
to start
to make that, to take those steps. Does that make sense?
Well, and that's interesting too, just in terms of that, I think it's good to not approach it with, I want like, oh, I want those arms, I want that. Like, you've got to accept your, like, for me, I don't exercise because I'm like, I want to get in better shape. Like, that is, yes, it's very nice that is happening, but it's also for me that it's like, oh, that's a benefit, but I really like how it makes me feel in my head.
Yeah.
You know, it's because it's like, you have a different body shape from me.
We all have different body shapes.
I will never have arms like you.
And we all carry children, so our
arms in quotes.
Right? That I'm like, it's just, we all carry
But
children.
the fact that you feel stronger, that's the key.
Gosh darn, my legs feel really awesome right now, you know? And it's like, me, I accept it. I was talking to my mom about it the other day. I'm like, I had a baby. My belly's always going to be squishy. It's like very
That's
lightly,
right.
and it's like, but I'm not exercising.
That is not going away.
That's not going away. She loves playing with it. That baby of mine, she goes like squish to it. My thing.
So our kids still. Let's just say that's not going to go away because our kids are now teenagers and they still do that.
But like,
I'm like, okay, seriously, guys.
that like, because if you want, and that's like a long. You've been working on your arms forever. You know what I mean? Like that's something that'll like there things will come. It's not.
But we all have different body types. We all eat differently.
Have different body types.
Right?
All
So
are different. Do it to make yourself feel better, like emotionally, like that. At least that's what keeps me going.
Right.
See, that's interesting because the arms, maybe the arms, but the ultimate peak of that pyramid is you feel better emotionally.
Yes.
You feel good. You feel better emotionally because of how your arms have gone. You're talking about how your legs feel. You feel stronger.
Yeah.
You're right. The ultimate thing is how you feel.
Because that's what's getting me on every day, honestly, is that I'm like, I need to feel clear in my head today, so I'm going to get on and exercise so I'm a better person for other people.
That's great.
And that's what is pushing me further than than I've ever been.
For
with,
yourself
like,
and other people, and therefore for other people.
Exactly. And it's like, so then I, like, that pushes me way further, and it always has, than if I'm like, oh, I just want to lose a few pounds.
Totally agree.
But that's the benefit. But that's a great side benefit of that, you know. So.
But it's like,
right.
The reason is.
Yeah. But then you'll see, like, then, you know, for most people, once they start getting into better shape, they start working, like, it's like a car. Suddenly you've washed it. And then now you're like, ooh, let me tinker with it and let's see what else can I do, you know? And then you're like, oh my God, this is amazing that I could do this or that or try this or try that. But yeah, I think that's what's so fascinating. Yeah. And it just kind of trickles into everything else that you do in your life.
Is it that simple?
It's that simple.
It's not that simple.
It is that simple.
It is that simple, but it takes time.
That doesn't mean it's easy.
Yes.
There we go.
And it's I think the other key is...
And we're not telling you it's easy. It's not easy.
I think the other thing is you have to pick things that you can do consistently. So 100%. Don't go for the marathon right now.
No.
That's why I keep stressing, let's just do the 5 minutes. You could do 5 minutes consistently. You could high-five yourself.
What was your first easy piece at the beginning of your journey?
Mine was the 15 minutes on the bike. Because I've always exercised before.
Just doing your thing, 15 minutes.
Yes, because I've done... I think it's just like coming from like working out a lot before to like 0. 15 minutes was like, okay, I could do 15 minutes.
And that's kind of like what you were sharing with the experience with your brother. It's like, well, I've done that before.
Yeah. I could do this.
I can do this.
Like, I could do this.
All right.
I got it.
And truthfully, it's like I was offered medication, like we talked about, and I was like, no, let's try all natural.
Hey, it's working.
Always go back to it if you need it. It's always
right.
there, right?
Yeah.
It's working.
It's working.
Yep.
It's working inside and out.
Thanks, Irene.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.